Persona 3. Now, you probably had a thought into your head when I said this, and I'd say it was one of three things. Either FES, Portable, or Persona 5 if you're a games journalist. We can disregard that last one now and just focus in on Persona 3, FES, and Portable specifically for a moment. So Persona 3, for years, has been plagued by a lack of a definitive version. You had Vanilla when the game came out, which was great, it was amazing, it was Persona 3, of course it was good. But then we also had FES, a more of an expansion type game released later, with some new social links and of course the epilogue, The Answer, which I still haven't finished, my bad team. And of course, on the PSP, we had Persona 3 Portable, which brought along a whole host of new mechanics like controlling party members, but most importantly, the FEMC. Now look, before we get into the meat of this video, I need to clarify something for the Persona 3 purists. I have only played Persona 3 FES, a modded version at that. So, Lord knows what I really played. Pretty much, I just got to avoid all the dumb early 2000s JRPG type of stuff that was in that. But I still didn't go ahead and play the FEMC route or anything of that sort, because obviously, it didn't exist. What I'm getting at is I know literally nothing about Persona 3 Portable, other than the fact that FEMC exists. She's got better social links, she's got that one line where she offers to sell naked pictures of Mitsuru, and also that she has a joke that some of you really need to retire. So basically, keep in mind that whenever I reference old Persona 3 or the original Persona 3, what I'm referring to is my Persona 3 FES, Persona 3 Portable gameplay hybrids that I ended up playing. It was basically just FES with controllable party members really though. But anyway, like I said, Persona 3 has never had that perfect version. That one version for everyone to just play with no downsides to it at all. Sure, you had FES, which gave you that 3D environment, the 3D social links, and also The Answer, but it had so many stupid things in it. Like, why can't you control party members, really? And also, why can't you just be friends with the girls? Why do we forced romances? Like, come on. Then there was Portable, which overall loses out on visual storytelling since it's all in a visual novel style, but in exchange you gain control of the party members, you can be platonic with the romance options, and of course, FEMC's existence. And so all of this brings us up to Persona 3 Reload. So enough of my rambling, let's get into it. But actually I lied, I've got one more thing to ramble about. If you're going to be typing a comment at some point, I would like to kindly request that you wait until the video's done, just because there's a good chance I probably said something in it that completely explains whatever you're about to say. But anyway, enough of that, let's get into this. I welcome you all to an Irish review of Persona 3 Reload.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Ace detective? More like...
Then die.
Now we'll start very quickly with just a few notes. First off, I'm going to try to keep this as spoiler free as possible, but this is a 20-year-old game nearly, so keep that in mind. I'm going to be showing early versions of all the new things that do exist in the game, so if you want to go completely spoiler free, why are you watching this video? So if you just want a TLDR, this is Persona 3 but modern, of course it's good. But anyway, this is going to be the order that I talk about things in, so if you want to skip to a certain part or avoid others, well look, you know what to do. So we may as well start off with the combat gameplay, and I'm in love with every aspect of it. The absolute biggest thing to me personally is that the navigator is finally balanced. You know how in other Persona games the navigator has stats, but does fuck all? You can never control what your navi does, it's always just random chance besides requesting enemy skill weaknesses. Never once did I see Futaba's SP go down. But in Reload, oh, this is so much better. None of your skills are random, you control every aspect of it. Do you want an enemy analyzed? Easy, just wait for a full turn, it'll cost you a little bit of SP. Low on resources but no teleporter in sight? Turn on stealth mode or just straight up use an escape button. Want to debuff enemies or buff yourself in battle? No bother. Want to skip this floor? Easy. All of these skills are unlocked throughout the game and have their own SP cost, which is finally makes the navigator an interactive part of the game, which just makes things so much more fun than I remember during Tartarus explorations. And speaking of combat, this game's combat is fluid. I remember even in my modded version, Tartarus was a chore. It was slow, it was clunky, it would have been clunkier if not for my mods. Any combat outside of boss battles was just very monotonous. But now, I love every second of this. Starting with the biggest thing, shifting, essentially the baton pass for Persona 5, only it doesn't give benefits unless you have specific skills for it, be it an SP increase or of course a damage boost. Also the shift animation is so smooth, I really love it, Yukari's and Koromaru's especially. Shifting adds fun layers to the combat that I really love. Hitting a weakness with one turn, using that second one to give that character an attack buff, and hitting a new weakness with a different character and returning to your first one to get used to that buff quicker is really rewarding. Especially later on in the game, where making efficient use of every turn is essential if you want to save your resources. While we're mid-battle, we may as well mention how Persona 5 was obviously influenced in this game through Eiga and Koha skills as well, alongside the appearance of the old Hama and Mudo variants. Now, personally, I like this. Something that annoyed me in the old Persona 3 combat was an enemy not having a weakness beyond a move that was some low shit accuracy Mudo or Hama skill. So personally, I see no issues. While we're still talking about skills as well, I'm really happy to see how fusion skills got reworked. In the old game, if you had 2 personas registered, you gained access to a new skill that used both of them. They're back, but better than ever. Thirties, as they're now called, are skills that the entire party can use, rather than just the protagonist exclusively having his own. Now for everyone, they get their own for their personas, and there's loads of different effects with these thirties, from stat buffs, heals, massive amounts of damage, SP recoveries, charge and concentration effects. There's plenty of variety, and I'm here for it. 30s can be activated once a meter is built up. What I really like is how each character has different actions to fill up their bar quicker. Like Mitsuru wanting to hit weaknesses, Fuka gaining more from analyzing, or Ken who gains more whenever he's on less than half of his SP, which is really accurate because good god he's got some SP costs. Comparisons can be drawn between them and the showtime from Persona 5. I'm really sorry about all Persona 5 comparisons, but they do end there, I hope. Anyway, I honestly think they're a way better version of Showtime since you can actually build up to them instead of just having a random chance for big damage to happen. And since there's more to it than just raw damage, it has a nice layer of strategy to it. For example, Aegis. Everyone, raise your hand if you use Orgia mode in the original Persona games. No one? Yeah, that's what I thought. Orgia mode returns as Aegis' Theurgy, and I absolutely love it. It is way better than whatever the hell kind of mess she had in the original. Never once did I ever use Orgia mode, I'm not gonna lie. Setting Aegis up with a couple of buffs, maybe giving her a charge from Koromaru, and you can just send her in, she sets off a nuke, and she goes to town on people. It's absolutely brilliant. But also, of course, Aegis' Theurgy, compared to the others, has a little bit of extra strategy thrown on top of it, because, naturally, you lose control of her for 3 turns. So you do need to decide, do you just want her to go into the beating the shit out of everyone mode, or do you want her to stay around so you can get some Takundas, Mataru Kajas, Maraku Kajas? I'm praying I actually said those right because I can't look at the script right now. Theurgies really spice up combat and never feel like an automatic win button unless you're using Armageddon or something. Another thing I do like about them is that they've got elemental properties, be it physical or magic, so they can be affected by charge, concentrate, and of course they can hit weaknesses as well. I remember one time I used Fuka's Theurgy, got charged up, used my own Theurgy, which then resulted in me just one-shotting the first stage of a boss. It was absolutely hilarious, because I don't think I'm using over-leveled for that at all. It's just the level of damage that these things can do if you have the right one at the right time. Now that is pretty much all I have to say about combat, but there is one more thing that I need to cover, because Tartarus exploration is absolutely sublime now. I adore this. In the original games, Tartarus was never a looker. Sure, all the zones did look kind of cool, you could see the design elements that were going into them, but they all kind of just blended together, they were all done in the same way. But these new zones, each one of them is so distinct, so different, has such a cool artistic design. I'm absolutely amazed. Every time I got to a new block, my jaw dropped because of how beautiful this game is. Each area feels so different, and it's like Tartarus was able to finally be made in its entirety. One of my old gripes with the old Persona 3 was how ass it felt to control. Like in Tartarus, if you walked around at the same pace and if you wanted to attack, you'd stop dead in your tracks, swing for a solid second, then regain control if you missed. In Reload, this has been fixed and feels so much better. You slide forward a bit when you swing, which is already so much better than just stopping dead in place, and you can combo your swings as well a bit, so if you misjudge something you can get straight back into trying to hit the shadow and still salvage yourself a little. When I was let into Tartarus, I was having a field day with this alone. I was like a kid being shown around a dinosaur museum for the first time. You can also get upgrades for your movement that guarantee an ambush if you charge up a bit. Tartarus Exploration is wildly different from any of the old games, and you nearly have to fight me to get me out of Tartarus because it's just so fun. Some features make a return, like Persona 3 Portable's missing person system. Sometimes people or even social links end up wandering into Tartarus, so it's up to you to save them. Now I can't lie, I do the entirety of the Tartarus block in one night the second it unlocks, so sometimes it can be annoying when people and cats end up going missing in Tartarus, when I just want to level up social stats or do links, but honestly you can leave it all to one of the last days unless you need that social link immediately. I'm actually not sure what happens if you just leave a social link to die in Tartarus, but I'm gonna assume the link just dies, which would make the most sense, along with any fusion XP that you get for it. A new / returning feature is Monad doors, and these things are brilliant. In old Persona 3 you unlock Monads by either defeating the Reaper or starting up a New Game Plus, and it was basically just stronger Tartarus. In Reload, these Monad doors have a random chance to spawn on each floor, spawning a powerful enemy and good loot inside if you win. They also reveal the layout of the current and next floor, which is handy if you need a teleporter, but the only way out is up, or if you're just really trying to speedrun things. These single Monad doors are something I really like, especially since the fights inside are pretty challenging, at least early on, and it's enough to the point where you're going to have to commit a good chunk of your resources if you want to win unscathed. It also exists as mini gauntlets of powerful enemies on the last floor before a border floor, which to me, as Psychopath, is super fun, because after you just fought a mini-boss and are on your last legs with low SP, barely enough HP, and who knows how you're doing in terms of third-Gs, the reward in them are super good when you're from solid weapons, armor, outfits, gems, and even just pieces of lore. I love these Monad doors, and since, like I said, the original Persona 3 combat was not for me with how slow it was, I never even bothered going into Monad after I defeated the Reaper. I just did not care. But in Reload, it's evidently not an issue. I love these things. Even for that one Monad enemy that's just 5 Mayas that resist everything, and one snake that can heal them all for full HP. That fight took way longer than it should have, honestly. Another thing is that party members no longer have statuses like being sick, which is just a godsend. Sure, it was a good way to make sure you used everyone, but also if you're going to stick to just one party for the game, you're missing out. A lot of the fun, at least to me, comes from playing around with combinations and seeing what you can do with different characters, but sure, look, you do you. I've got about 3 more things to say about Tartarus Exploration before we finish with this section, so let's get them through nice and quick. The first one is that we have a bunch of new Tartarus Exploration lines, which they range from being hilarious to, oh god, that child is depressed. My absolute favourite one was when I first got Aigis, so I replaced Akihiko in my party with her, which left me with herself, Mitsuru, and Yukari, which resulted in a voice line that called me out on it entirely.
Oh hey, looks like you're the only guy on the team tonight.
I see. So this is what you would call a harem, correct? According to my data, every single man in the world fantasizes of having one.
Wait, is that what you're angling for?
Well, ulterior motives aside, I've no problems. After all, this team is strategically sound.
I think it was actually in the original, but I can't remember for the life of me, so Sherlock. Of course, I'm sure this has already been seen by everyone, but there are some absolutely beautiful crit cut-ins during combat, whether you're just critting or hitting a weakness. I don't need to say much else about them, just you've seen them all by now, they look amazing. But something else that I actually did really like is that characters get their own special awakening if you didn't see their own awakening happen. So naturally we saw Makoto's happen at the beginning of the game, but for everyone else, like Akihiko, Ken, Mitsuru, we all see them charge up to do their entire awakening. And they have a little mini moment about it. I think it's pretty cool, but also it's hilarious if they missed on that same turn. I saw one clip on Twitter of Akihiko charging himself up, hyping himself up, going absolutely crazy, shoots himself in the head, and what do you know, he misses the Sonic Punch on a Golden Shadow. And finally, Shuffle Time is back with a few new tricks up its sleeve. Well, cards in this case. As you progress through the tower and Monad, you unlock new Arcana cards for Shuffle Time with a massive range of benefits, from increasing XP, increasing the amount of social stats you'll gain the next day, boosting fusion bonuses, increasing stats. The only thing they can't do is give a Persona fan social skills in the real world. They're fairly rare, but Monad doors actually guarantee at least 1 or 2 Arcana cards at the end of their battles, and if you collect a certain amount you could trigger an Arcana burst, which gives you powered up versions of the regular Shuffle Time cards. The main thing I have to say is the Star Arcana is just the best, purely because being able to pick 2 cards is amazing, especially for Arcana bursts. And finally we have what I'm 90% sure is a new addition, Twilight Fragments. You can find these anywhere in Tartarus, the overworld, a cat's mouth, and Elizabeth's ass, really anywhere you can find these fuckers. They've got a whole host of uses as well, from opening locked chests, fully restoring HP and SP, and even summoning. When you use a Twilight Fragment, there's a chance that will spawn. What is you ask? Well, no, I'll stop that joke there. Anyway, the clock will drop down at the stairs of the floor that you're on and remain there until you use that Tartarus trip. When activated, you can select a certain amount of party members to receive an XP boost for their next battle, bringing them straight up to whatever level the protagonist is at max. This thing is a godsend. I absolutely adore it as a method to avoid grinding. It's not like some RPGs where XP is in such abundance you end up overleveled after 2 fights. Oh, come on. It's simply a way to boost up some party members who are lagging behind if you so choose. It still costs you something, and of course, you control the buttons you press. If you don't want to level up your party members in one fight, you don't have to. This is a really innovative way to get rid of grinding from a game, which I really love because grinding is my #1 enemy in these types of games. Now, I do have one last thing I wanted to mention, which I should have talked to during shifting, but it could be considered spoilers if you've never played Persona 3 before, so consider this your walking because I'm going to talk about a bit of a later game boss. Alright, 3, 2, 1, you had your chance. In the battle with Takaya and Jin on the bridge, they can actually use one more, beyond just getting an extra turn. Jin will frequently score one more than pass his turn over to Takaya, and this type of shit is just my weakness. I love when enemies can use what is previously thought of as a player-exclusive mechanic. I can't say much more beyond that because it is simple, but it's something I just find really cool, especially since the animation given to it was smooth as hell as always. Well, our combat section was longer than I expected, so it's time to move on to the reason half of you are even playing Persona, the life simulator. So it's time to talk social simulator, or otherwise known as what a Persona fan would fail in the real world, and where to start. I mean, I guess I should go ahead and say that the graphics are amazing. I think some of you might be starting to notice something about me, and it's that I'm severely lacking in games that just look good. I had a very bad PC and Nintendo Switch for years, so you know, I've gotten a bit used to it. The character models look amazing. You can see every little detail on their face. They're meant to be eye candy. Persona 5's models were, you know, they're grand, but they weren't really designed for you to be staring at them constantly. And I'm sorry about the Persona 5 comparisons, I swear I'm trying to keep them to a minimum. Overall, the game looks great. The models are really, really expressive, which makes anything that you're doing in a social link or even just watching in the story just feels so much better than it ever would in the few portable gameplays that I've seen, or even just in regular FES gameplay which I've played through. Now I know I was just praising the quality and all that, but I do have one small complaint, and it's that character portraits aren't as expressive. They kind of took the expression away from the portraits and gave it to the character models. So I guess you give and take some. It's not the end of the world, and it's definitely not something you notice unless you've played the other games before. It's just overall, you could see the portrait in the bottom, and it's just not doing as much movement or having as many visceral reactions as they would have in previous games. Although instead, some of the new portraits we got are unnerving. Overall, it's a small thing that might annoy the odd Persona 3 Twitter user, but realistically, who cares? While on the topic of social links, we may as well discuss how Atlus finally got rid of some really stupid social link mechanics from the originals. Characters no longer have a timer for when you want to hang out with them, and in case you don't know, if you didn't hang out with a girl for I think like 60 days after hitting rank 5 with her, they'd get pissed. You'd need to spend a few days to repair the social link. And also the timer would decrease by 15 days if you hung out with another girl, and I don't understand why this was in the game. You're also finally not forced to romance girls. Again, I don't know why this wasn't the original, but at least it's gone now. You can be platonic, and the responses for platonic routes are really good for once, both in how you choose them and the response you get. I like the modernized social links we've gotten, simply because they are the original Persona 3 social links, which are all pretty good in vanilla, except for the outliers. Now I can't lie, I was a little disappointed at the lack of social links for your male party members, but what we got in exchange, while not entirely making up to it for me, and I'll talk more about that later, it does do the initial lack some justice. Hangouts with the boys, or side stories, whatever you want to call them, while not acting like social links, do flesh out the characters well, and show off what can be considered their essentials. When I first played Persona 3, I had no connection to any of your male party members besides like Koromaru, and it was just because you didn't get much of their story. I don't mean their backstory like what happened, I mean receiving the character's own thoughts on it, seeing how it's affected them, just anything beyond, hey, this is a depressed 6-year-old. I literally never used Ken or Shinji because I just didn't care about them. But these new hangouts completely changed that for me. Whether you're trying to get some food with Akihiko, bring in Ken for some ramen, or people watching with Koromaru, you really get to see the characters in action, which I loved, and it actually got me to care about everyone. Because I'm sorry, I can't get attached to a character if I don't get half their story and only get a hint of their personality. And of course, for the Persona fans I don't want to share a room with, these hangouts do give you bonus abilities, from social stats or Persona stats all the way to unlocking new Personas, so don't worry, there are benefits. These hangouts, while cool and something I did love, I just don't get them overall. Like, why couldn't we have just had social links? Now, the hangouts were way longer than social links and did have whole arcs, so it's nice, don't get me wrong, but we could have just gotten standard social links, could we have not? I know I said I haven't played Portable, but there's obviously a base for these social links with the male characters, irrespective of whether or not you want to romance them. Which I will just say, let people be bi Atlas, just do it. I just think it's a missed opportunity, honestly. Now look, even if they didn't want to let you romance the boys, okay, I disagree. Fundamentally, I disagree. But I would live with it, I suppose. But you can't deny that at least a few Atlas employees, and mild spoiler warning, alright, 3, 2, 1, you had your chance. At least a couple Atlas employees were thinking about it because of this scene with Ryoji. You cannot convince me that this is one dialogue option away from just straight up being a romance, okay? Just look at this. Come on. This was literally the most homoerotic Persona scene in existence since Akechi's mental illness and Yosuke Hanamura's existence. But anyway, to move on to my grumbling and still staying on the topic of hangouts, we've got another set of hangouts that I absolutely adored. And it was the dorm hangouts. Something I don't like about Persona 3 is how a lot of the social links with your party members are very late game, at least in comparison to other games. So these little hangouts in the dorm acted as little crumbs of social link, which just kept my brain happy because I absolutely adored these, like I already said. There's a whole host of activities. You can cook, you can garden, you can read, you can watch TV with them, you can brush Koromaru, you can go people watching with Koromaru. I like Koromaru if you can't tell. The best part about this is, in case you're a Persona fan who, once again, I wouldn't really want to share a room with, there's obviously benefits for all these as well. Whenever you do enough of these dorm hangouts with anyone in your party, you can gain a new ability for them, depending on the activity. When you do enough of the dorm hangouts with your party members, they can gain a new ability that charges up their theurgy faster, and also just affects them passively. Now, these can range from really, really good to incredibly underwhelming. One such example is Yukari has an 11 SP Megidolaon, and Akihiko increases the length of his Tsukukaja. That's it, that's all he does. He just increases the length of his Tsukukaja. Hello, Editing Roy here. So it turns out that getting any buff increases Akihiko's theurgy gauge, along with giving him the lasting, longer effect that he actually has. Turns out it's a mistranslation in the English release. So Atlas has been confusing me for about 2 weeks now. But anyway, there you go, that's that sorted. But either way, with the abilities aside, these are genuinely amazing little details that show you more of the personality of all the C's members. Like, I absolutely love these because you can cook with Shinji, how would you not want to do that? You can brush Koromaru and hear him go, "Awoo!" And of course, ponytail mixer. Yes, the disparity in strength in some of these is a little bit insane and I think should have been looked at properly, but either way, the hangouts are amazing. I highly, highly recommend that you do them with every party member, or at least just do one with all of them, because they're so fun. Naturally, you also get some benefits outside of just the abilities, be it items from cooking that let you heal, or even just getting greater produce when you're doing your vegetables. Also, I need to mention that you can pet Koromaru at nearly any time. It's very important, trust me. Now, while different from all the hangout sessions, you do actually get some side stories with Strega, which I actually really liked because it does show you a little bit more about them compared to what we got in the original. Overall, it does flesh out Strega quite a bit, but it is just Takaya that you do have these meetups with, which, depending on the person, can change up the opinion. Either way, I just really like the detail of seeing how Takaya is so jealous of your ability to wield multiple personas, and you can genuinely see his motives just a lot more clear compared to the original, I personally feel. Maybe I'm just an idiot and maybe I'm misremembering, but you get what I'm saying either way. Now, a new feature added into Persona 3 is something that was probably taken out of Persona 5, I know it's your little phone in the top corner. Now, I love this purely from an ease of access type standpoint, because it just makes things easier. You don't need to note down every single day or date that a certain thing is open, you'll just get a little notification that tells you, hey, a thing is happening here. I personally like it, some might not, but also you control the buttons that you press. And also the text you get off characters are just amazing. Like, it adds so much charm just seeing how they interact with you over a text and over the phone. Whether it's Bunkichi or Igus being fascinated at the existence of emojis. Even just receiving a thing off Mitsuru, which looks so incredibly stiff, or seeing how Fushimi gives you properly scheduled, timed business emails asking if you can hang out. I love the little ways that they show off how the characters will text each other. It's a good time, it's fun, at least to me. But by far, the best message and the best texter is Tanaka. Because this man will send you fake, lonely MILFs in your area ads, things, messages, whatever you want to call them, from his official company email. I mean, he's the president of the company, so who's going to report him for it? But like, Jesus, man. Now, the last thing I want to mention isn't really a review of the game, but rather a review of my stupidity. I think there's more to do at night now, but I'm genuinely not sure, because the only thing I remember using nighttime for in the original game that I played was social stats. I knew Tanaka's social link existed, but I didn't really care much about it, so that's why I did it in Reload, and I was like, oh shit, it's actually really good. But this entire thing is just, like, I think I'm just dumb. I think I'm just incredibly stupid. So many things at night seem more open to me now than they did before, because I just didn't know that they were there. For one, there's a PC you can use in the dorm which can unlock different things, be it social stats or just new abilities while you're in Tartarus, or even just increasing social link progress. I'm not too sure what the word for it is. But the big thing that I noticed, maybe just about Persona 3 Reload in general really, is that the social links were just easier to come across. Like, I did not know Mutatsu existed. I only found out about Mutatsu, like, while I was playing the game. I genuinely never came across Mutatsu in the original game. I never went into Club Escapade. I just didn't know he existed. I probably wasn't paying attention when someone told me that, hey, there's a monk in Club Escapade. Along with that, I also have not encountered the fat kid. I don't know who he is. I don't know where you encounter him. I don't know how. I've never done this social link. I don't even know his name. I think he's the Moon Arcana, because that's the only Arcana I've been missing this entire time. But oh well. At the end of the day, all these new features added into the more social side of Persona are just entirely quality of life or good additions. Yes, like I have already said, I don't like the lack of social link party member things with the boys, but the hangouts make up for it just enough for me, so I'll let it slide. Honestly, just making way too many pancakes with Akihiko was a good enough time for my Persona 5 brain, so I'm okay with it really. Now, as for story, but the game is nearly 20 years old. Do you... you know the story by now, probably, and if you don't, just... you don't need to. Alright? Like, it is damn near impossible to avoid spoilers for this game. Like, you know something about it, probably, I'm assuming. TLDR, the story is the same, if anything it's just better, because so many of the new scenes in genuinely good quality hit so much harder. And it's just what is there not to love, you know? Like, I can't say much other than the fact the answer isn't here, but I'll go into that in a bit, so I warn you all, you're in for a bit of a tangent now. We may get DLC for the answer in the future, which I will buy, but will just accentuate my disappointment, because why wasn't it there to begin with? I know the actual reason is because they were remaking the original Persona 3, specifically the vanilla version, so it didn't exist. But also, they added in other things, like the Igus social link, which was only in FES and portable, so I don't see the logic. I disagree with it fundamentally. I liked the answer, at least the story of it. I haven't fully gone through with it, I'm only a couple hours in, but from the bit I played, it seemed really good, and I would have loved to play that in non-old Persona 3 PS2 bullshit type of mechanics. But now, this is a video about a Persona game. I'm legally obligated to talk about music, and the music in this game, oh! I love it. I've been listening to these things on repeat. Color Your Night, the nighttime track for the game. I'm going off script, I don't care. This thing is the best, this is the best Persona track. Very minimum is the best Persona 3 Reload track, okay? Minimum is the best Persona 3 Reload track. Personally, it's become my favorite Persona background track of all time. In the original game, there was not really a theme for nighttime, it just depended on where you were. But this new thing that they've added in is it's just such a banger. I've been using it, like the last few videos I've made before this, I've been using Color Your Night. I was listening to Color Your Night on repeat when all we had was the minute-long teaser of the first time we ever saw it. And now that we got the full version, I have been tweaking listening to this thing nearly every day. It's a bit of a problem, actually, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, the new battle theme, it's going down now. Cleanest version as of February 2nd, 2024, is another banger. I absolutely love it, like I said. And honestly encouraged me to go for as many ambushes as possible just so I could listen to it, because I was absolutely vibing when I finally got to hear this thing for the first time. The opening, Full Moon Full Life, goes crazy, and you should really try to find the full version of it somewhere. It doesn't really matter where you find it, because man, this thing is so good. I love how Lotus Juice managed to go ahead and work on this. This man is insane. Of course, there's new versions of old tracks. Iwa Todai Dorm and Mass Destruction are back, and honestly, I don't dislike them. Sure, I can't lie, they don't hit the same way the old versions do, but I don't think they're bad renditions. I just think it's down to preference. Personally, I don't care, I don't mind which version of them I listen to, but for others they might really prefer the original version of it, and I can understand why. But overall, the music for Persona 3 Reload, of course it's insane. It's Persona 3. It's Persona. They never miss. Reload was actually the first time I have ever bought music. I got the definitive edition because I thought, fuck it, I want the music tracks, but oh Atlas, you slimy creatures, you. Let me ask you a question. When you get DLC for a game that gives you the game's soundtrack, what do you expect? Maybe some MP3 files, maybe sound files that are higher quality than MP3, something of that sort anyway, but you definitely expect to be able to play the music whenever, wherever, right? Wrong. Like I've said, I've never bought soundtracks or albums or anything of the sort before in my life, but this is just the worst soundtrack I've ever purchased. I don't mean in terms of music, you just heard me talking about that, it goes hard. I mean in terms of accessibility. This thing pauses when you tab out. I can't do something else while listening to the music. What do you mean it pauses? Yeah, the soundtrack is a goddamn Unreal Engine application. Like, you can't download the music anywhere. Am I the wrong one for thinking this is stupid? Am I the wrong one for thinking this is crazy? Like, if I buy your music, should I not get access to it, at least, you know, outside of some shitty application that doesn't work? Should I not be getting the files? Like, am I the wrong one for thinking this is idiotic? Am I the stupid one here? I don't think I am. But, you know, I don't buy music that often, so I wouldn't know. And you know what, look, while I'm on the topic of DLC, I've got one more thing that I need to say, because, God Atlas, you've got a problem with it. Why did it cost 90 quid to dye Koromaru black and white? Like, 90 quid? Alright, 90 euro, dollars, probably 100 something Canadian because your currency is fake. Why does it cost so much when one of the primary editions is Phantom Thief costumes? like the definitive version, the 80 euro one. Okay, look, that goes ahead, that gives you a soundtrack, that gives you a digital art book. Yeah, look, 10 extra euro for that, I understand, I get it. But this special version of just in-game costumes, really? Really? Do they cost an extra 10? I don't think they do, personally. I don't think that's all meant to cost an extra 10. Especially considering they were like the most divisive thing ever. I've never seen so many people get so angry about DLC costumes in a game. People were losing their minds over these costumes. Some people absolutely loved Queen Mitsuru, and no comment for me. But some people were going crazy, like the lack of Asumi being present, or the lack of God even knows what. I don't even know at this point. Like, on the one hand, they're not locking core features behind a paywall or something. I'm very grateful for that, and I want that to be clear. But on the other, why are we doing Day 1 DLC still, Atlas? Can we chill out with the Day 1 DLC stuff, maybe, personally? This is just my own thoughts on it. Can we not do the Day 1 DLC, capitalism, please? And you know, while I'm here on the topic of DLC, I'm going to throw in something that some people may disagree with, and look, fair enough. I don't think they should make DLC for FemC. Now, maybe down the road they'll make some DLC that has the answer and FemC, and I'll get them, okay? But I don't like the existence of FemC. Not to say I dislike Katone or the FemC route, not at all, but why the fuck can't we just have gender options for protagonists? Look at Fire Emblem, it's in full swing there. Byleth, I don't think they said more than 10 words out loud in 3 houses, so Atlas, you'd be grand to just do the same, would you not? Like, imagine if we just had Makoto and Katone in the game just as gender options, just throw in dialogue differences because the idea of selling photos of Mitsuru to her superfan is hilarious to me, and let them romance whoever. I know I mentioned this earlier, but why do we lock romances behind character choice? I know there's differences in social links between the two. I mean, Maya is a different person in Portable, so honestly, Femsi Route, fair play to you for removing a nonce. Don't make that joke in the comments. I know one of you FVS fans are going to do it. Don't, just get new material, please. But look, there's my 2 cents on the matter. Although it's more like 27 cents in this case. If DLC were to release that contained the answer or Femsi, look, I would probably buy it. Let's not lie here. I'm probably going to cave and buy it, but it wouldn't change the fact that I would still be disappointed just at the existence of the fact that it is DLC. However, I would much rather DLC of these two things rather than some kind of Persona 3 Reload portable version of the game where I have to pay like 80, 70 something, however much euro just to play the entire game again, but with 10 to 20 extra euro of content added in. I don't like this Atlas approach to games, but sure, I don't think they'd be that stupid to do this with a remake. The reason I just wouldn't be a big fan of Femsi DLC is because I don't trust Atlas to not treat it like a cash grab. If it was intended to be in the game from the beginning, it would have been handled with so much care because they know how much people love Femsi. But if they were to do it like this with a DLC type of way, I feel like less care would be put in because they'd just be like, people are going to pay money for this, go. Well, this was a lot longer than I anticipated, honestly. I love Persona 3 Reload, okay? I adore this game and I want that to be clear. I think this is amazing and it is by far at least the best Persona game in terms of gameplay in my opinion. It's got the most fun combat out of any Persona game. It's got the best graphics out of all of them. It has the smoothest animations. It has some brilliant new additions, which I've been loving. It's got some of the most banging music that I've ever had to hear in any Persona game. And of course, it's got the most wholesome Koromaru moments.
Shake.
I have my gripes with it, so I'll spare you all hearing me repeat myself again about it, but you all get what I'm going on about when I do make those points, or at least I hope you're listening to them. Persona 3 Reload definitely cannot be called a definitive version of Persona 3. However, I think it can be called the most fun Persona, or at least the most fun Persona 3. And sure, look, at the end of the day, isn't that what we want in a game? Yeah, this took a while to make. I've been standing in my room for about an hour trying to record all of these standing parts where I appear in the video, and my legs are absolutely killing me. It's also been a while since I've made an actual review, so I would really like if you could head into the comments and just tell me, how should I improve these? I don't know if I should yap less, yap more, make more jokes, make less jokes. I'm not really too sure how I should go about this, so I'd really appreciate just some thoughts, some comments, anything of the sort. If you have something good to say, something bad to say, I don't mind. Preferably keep the animosity out of it. If I said something you didn't like, you all get what I'm saying. But honestly, thank you all for watching, especially if you stayed until this part. And if you're still here, I'd like it if you comment, sub, like, blah 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 blah, all the YouTube stuff. And I'll talk to you next time, lads.